We're fixing to bring you guys a goose call instructional DVD right here. We're gonna start it off with a bang real quick. Get him.
Get him.
Go!
Nice shooting, everyone.
And that's how you start it out, just like that. Back!
Is that one banded?
Good boy! Done all the shows that I've done throughout the country and Midwest through over the past 10 years. The hardest group of guys to teach how to blow a short reed goose call is guys have been blowing a flute call for 20 years. What we gotta do, and the reason we struggle so much, is gotta unlearn all of that flute call and stuff, because short reed goose calls operate basically completely opposite. Flute calls operate on a ton of air, a large volume of air, blown at a fairly low airspeed. Short reed goose call is the exact opposite of that. They require a very small amount of air sped up through your mouth and blown a lot faster through the call. So lots of pressure, lots of speed, and a very small amount of air. That's the two main physical differences in getting good goose sounds out of a short reed goose call versus a flute call. Short reed goose calls, the sound is determined by the caller. So if you want to blow some real sharp, fast notes and sound like a smaller bird, or cover your hands up and create a lot of echo in there, sound like some deeper, bigger birds, there's all of those different sounds usually built into one short reed. So now, if you're one of those guys that have been blowing a flute call for the last 20 years, probably interested in the short reed market because you want to advance your calling a little bit and be able to make some more notes. So, there's a couple notes for you right there. Just some introductory stuff. When you're blowing that flute call, your tongue, your jaw, your mouth, everything's open way up, and the air is coming through that call really slow. There's a ton of air, it's moving real slow through your mouth. So now we need to take all that stuff basically and just do the opposite. We're gonna take your jaw, close your jaw up, almost close, so your teeth are almost together. And so your cheeks are staying in, your jaw's coming up, and then your tongue is coming up towards the roof of your mouth too. So all of that stuff, what it's gonna do is gonna take your mouth, that air chamber like this, it's gonna take it from this big, it's gonna take it all the way down to that big. So you're gonna build more pressure in your lungs, but you're shooting that pressure through a lot smaller hole that you're creating in your mouth. Gives in your throat, the back of your tongue, the middle of your tongue, tip of your tongue, your jaw, your teeth, your cheeks, all that stuff needs to close together and force that air out of your mouth a lot faster. So a lot higher pressure, a lot higher speed, higher airspeed coming through the call in order to get that reed to vibrate right in the short reed. Now, the back end of the call, on all of our calls right here, we've got the finger groove on the insert. That's this guy right here. So that's gonna give beginners and competition callers, hunters, everyone a good guide for that pointer finger. Take that pointer finger right there, put it on the insert, wrap that pointer finger around, wrap that thumb around there, get a good hold on the call so it's nice and comfortable. Your ring finger and pinky finger. Basically what I do there is I just make a fist with those guys, just close them off completely. And that leaves your middle finger left out of the equation. You take that guy and just bring that middle finger up, just about a half a knuckle like that. That's your little sound chamber. That's where the sound's gonna come out of. So ring finger, pinky finger, those guys are just closed off. No sounds coming through the call and coming straight out the end of the call like this. The sound's getting redirected on this sound pocket, and then you're gonna redirect that sound over into this hand here. I'm right-handed. This would be my on hand. It's on the call. My left hand would be my off hand because it's not touching the call. So you're gonna redirect that sound. And basically, I've got two positions that I keep my off hand in. The first position is everything's just closed up in the back. If the geese are a long ways away and I want a lot of volume, all the volume going out the front of the call, my hands are just closed up in the back. No sound's gonna come back out through me, to me, nothing like that. So it's closed up in the back. I'm blowing all the sound out there. There's a drawback to that in that it's going to help the geese or allow the geese to pinpoint your location. So as the geese come in, getting a little bit closer, I'm gonna switch things up a little bit and I'm gonna close off the front of that call and I'm gonna blow the sound back behind me and then I'll switch that up a little bit to throw the sound different directions and around the decoys and away from me so that the geese aren't pinpointing my location so they can't bust me and start backpedaling and get the heck out of there. So as far as air presentation, hand placement, two of the biggest things in operating a short reed goose call and getting the right sounds out of it. So now we've talked about air presentation, talked about hand placement. Hopefully you've got a little bit of a mental picture of what the inside of your mouth needs to look like and that air chamber, that air compression chamber, speed up the air through your mouth. Now we'll actually blow a little bit of air into the call. So I'll blow some air into the back of the call so you can hear that, see what it sounds like. What I want you to do is just take a nice deep breath, apply your hands like I showed you, and try to get your mouth like I showed you, and into the back of the call, drop your jaw down just a little bit, blow some air into the reed, into the front of the call so you can make some sounds with it. Blow some air in there, and as you're blowing air and applying air to the call, bring your tongue, the back of your tongue and your jaw closer and closer to the roof of your mouth, and you're gonna feel the call break over. Once you get your tongue close enough to the roof of your mouth, it's gonna speed that air up enough and it's gonna break the call over. You don't have to shut the note off with your tongue if you don't want to. You don't have to stop it like a clock where it would break over and stop. You can just continuously blow air. It's not really gonna sound like a goose, but it's just gonna get you, it's gonna get that flute stuff untrained out of your brain, and it's gonna start training you and into learning this short reed. Just take a big deep breath and just blow a bunch of air into the call, and then once that call breaks over, then just back off and come back down with it, and then break it over again and come back down, break it over. You can hear a little bit of air speed and pressure change in the call when I'm doing that, and that pressure change, that air speed change, is when the call would break over. So let's try that into the front of the call, make a little bit of noise with it. It's going to sound terribly annoying, I get that. It's not going to sound anything like a goose. You're probably not going to do, not going to want to do anything like this when you're goose hunting, but it's a learning tool, it's a training tool. So here we go. You're gonna train your brain, you're gonna train your mouth, your muscle memory, everything. It's gonna all help all that stuff out. So now, let's talk about if you couldn't get that sound out of there. Let's talk about if you got something like this. Sounds terrible. Maybe sounds more like a sick duck than a goose or anything like that. So what happened there, if you're getting a sound like that, what happened there and what you're doing wrong is you're applying too much pressure to this end of the call while you've got too much pressure on this end of the call. So in the middle here, it's kind of like a scale. Your guts are right in the middle, your reed's right in the middle of that scale. So if you've got a ton of pressure on the front end of the call where you blow the air into, and you've got a ton of pressure back here on the back side of the call, back pressure. If you've got too much of that, your reed's stuck right in the middle, it's gonna freak out, go down into the bottom of the tone channel and pretty much just stick there and not know what the heck it's supposed to do. So I'm just gonna, it's gonna sound something like that. You got a ton of pressure here and a ton of pressure here, and that's what's gonna happen. On the opposite end of that, the other end of the spectrum, if you're having trouble breaking the call over like this, you're having trouble with that, and you're getting something that sounds like this, it's not really breaking over. It's not breaking over correct. So what happened there is I don't have enough pressure on this end, and I don't have enough pressure on this end. So my hands were way too opened up, and I wasn't putting enough pressure in on here. So if I open my hands up, I'm gonna have to apply a bunch more pressure on this side. If I close my hands way down, I'm gonna have to back way off on the pressure on this side. Do you understand how that scale, that teeter-totter is working there with the pressures and the reed in order to get that reed to break over correctly and to function properly? So now as we advance a little bit further, and we've got some of that muscle memory created, we're starting to learn what our tongue and our mouth needs to do, when it's telling to do it, we can start to shut that note off and create basically our first honk out of the goose call, that low note, and then the break, and then the high note. Pretty easy, pretty basic note. Geese don't do it very much, a little bit, but it's a good note to start on with the goose call because it's a slow note, and it's a lot of the first note and a lot of the second note, so you get good practice in there. So let's just try that honk. You got your fingers, how we talked about. You got your air, your muscles, tongue, everything like that. So take a pretty deep breath in and just blow that low note and then break it over and then shut that second note off with your tongue. Just like that. Break it over and then shut it off. Pretty easy, pretty basic note. First note is your low note, then it breaks over and into your higher second note.
Whether your decoys are weekend warriors or a tool of the trade, you depend on them to finish the flock when the time is right. Your spread should depend on the world's highest quality, most durable gunning decoys made. From old reliable extreme mallards to our innovative new X-Blind, we meet your demands. Dakota Decoy, the migration stops here.
There's some geese out there, but they're too far away, so we can talk about another note really quick before we have to stand up and heat up the gun barrels a little bit. So we're talking about the honk. That long front note, that long second note, and shortened version of that, just the middle little chunk of that note would be your cluck. That is going to sound something like this. So that's a series of clucks strung together and kind of a hunting scenario, hunting situation. And basically I just started the note with pretty much the tip of my tongue, just like that. Start it with the tip of my tongue and pretty much end it with the tip of my tongue, shutting the note off or shutting the air off from the call. So it's just gonna deliver a super fast blast of air to the call, break it over really quick, and shut it off just as quick, basically. So, you know, super short note, just like that. You're bringing that air up from your diaphragm, pressurize that air, and release it with your tongue. Your tongue acts kind of as a pressure release valve, so to say. So you're just releasing blasts of air at the reed, and it's going to break that reed over really quick. Start it, stop it, and there's a cluck. Geese do that note all the time, all over the place. If you see a goose, he's probably just got done doing a cluck or he's about to do one. So after you've got that cluck down perfect and you want to change the tone of it, like two different geese talking back and forth, you can adjust the tone of the cluck or most any note for that matter, with your middle finger. It kind of acts like the slide on a trombone. The higher you have it, the higher pitch that goose call is going to be. The lower that you have it, the lower pitch it's going to be. But you have to remember your pressures. When you raise it up, you're changing the pressure on the back side of the call too, so you're going to have to put a little bit more pressure here. And in the opposite of that, if you're going to close that middle finger down, you have to back off on the pressure on this side of the call. So when you do that, adjust that finger and you have it up here, those clucks are going to be a lot higher pitched. And bring it down. It's just like two different geese talking back and forth. And if you go outside, listen to the geese, go down to the park, they're doing that note. They're talking back and forth like that all the time. Especially in the spring, you can hear some pretty impressive conversations that way. You might want to speed that up a little bit. Get that cluck as fast as you can. There's a few different ways of going about that. One way you can do that is to start and stop every note, basically with the tip or the middle of your tongue, something like that, and cluck like that, and then just build speed. You know, you're gonna start out pretty slow. And then just get faster and faster, and that might take you 20 minutes or it might take you 2 days to build that speed like that. But you know, you can continue building that speed, or another way to do it is like we had talked about before, when you're just applying air into the call before we started blowing that honk. You can see I never stopped that note. That's how we started initiating that honk, right? It's just blowing a continuous note and breaking that call over and falling back and breaking it over and falling back. Now let's just speed that up, get that muscle memory built, and this is gonna be mostly the back of your tongue. Get that muscle memory built up and start speeding that up, shortening up those notes, and now it's pretty much just like we got a whole bunch of clucks stacked in there together. So now we've got the basic fundamentals of the cluck down, and you're going to want to be able to pick up your goose call and cluck with it without thinking about it. Muscle memory is built up, and it just basically just comes natural. Because like I said, geese are doing that sound all the time. You want to be able to do that all the time as well. Once you can do that, you got that muscle memory built up. A little drill that you can do and practice on increasing your speed, getting a little bit faster on the goose call, would be to blow continuous air, apply continuous air to the goose call, and then fluctuate the pressure with your diaphragm and increase and decrease your mouth cavity. So what I'm saying is basically blow continuous air into the call and kind of cough into the call, if you will. And that's gonna break the call over. But you don't start or stop each little note. It's just continuous air, and then you just kind of cough into the call to get that call to break over, and then fall back and break over and fall back. And it's gonna sound like a bunch of stacked together clucks all in a row, a whole bunch of them, and then you can add some goosey rhythm to that as you move forward with it. So the little drill, try something like this. We've mastered the honk, we've mastered the cluck, we've got those down. Now we're gonna work on the moan, and we're gonna string that together with a series of clucks, do a cluck moan combination, because it's the most realistic series of notes that you can do on a goose call, I believe. I do it all the time, and it's pretty much my go-to string of notes when I'm out hunting. So our end result is gonna sound like this. Just a bunch of clucks separated in there with some moans. The moan being basically just the front part of that honk that we talked about earlier, just that front low note. Now I'm dropping the back of my tongue down a little bit, and I'm applying a little bit less air pressure and less air speed into the goose call. It gets the call right about where it's about to break over, but it doesn't break the call over. That's a basic moan right there. And then raise the back of your tongue up a little bit increase that airspeed, get the call to break over, and then drop it back down for another moan. You guys, let me know if you see any geese out there.
Will do.
So the ultimate goal behind all of this is to put all those clucks and moans together and build speed. That's gonna sound like more geese that are more excited because they have better food here, and that's gonna make the birds in the air wanna come in, check it out. They're gonna get curious, and they're gonna swing by and have a little look-see at the decoys. Building speed is basically just applying that continuous hot air into the goose call without starting and stopping all those notes, just blowing continuous air in there with that basic moan as a base, and then throwing a bunch of clucks in there, whether it's 1, 2, 3 clucks stacked together, some more moans, more clucks, build that speed, build that muscle memory, and just sound like more geese. I could sit here all day listening to these things. Some of the sounds, some of the notes you can pick up, just hanging out with geese, just awesome. You know, there's really no two geese that sound identical, or there's so many different ways geese communicate with each other. It's awesome just to sit here, take it in, listen to them. So if you've got a park, refuge, you know, in town, you can come in, hang out with the birds, get close to them, let them get relaxed. If you don't want to take my word for it on what a goose sounds like, you can take their word for it. Another cool note I'd like to talk about is the murmur. All the bassy growl, roar, roar, that low rumble. That's all geese do in the murmur. It's a content note, just letting other geese know where they're at. This is my space. It's kind of just a little bit of a chatter note that they basically do it all the time. It's not a real power note. You're not going to call geese that are a quarter mile away with the murmur. In the goose call, it's going to sound like this. And that would be kind of more of a territorial, late season, food sources diminishing. There's a lot more attitude in that note versus, you know, what you heard when the geese were resting, just sitting on the water and hanging out. You know, that would be more late season, food sources pretty scarce. They're fighting for the last few pieces of corn in a cornfield, something like that, a real territorial style of note. And basically how to do that into a goose call, you drop the back of your tongue down. It's kind of like a moan. It's similar to that, except it's cut off, it's choppier, so you're growling into the call, basically like you're gargling mouthwash in the back of your throat, and you use a lot of voice in the call. You physically do that. You use your voice box, use your vocal cords in there, and bring that air up from your diaphragm, that real hot air, and just growl into it. You can kind of break that note apart a little bit with the tip of your tongue or the back of your tongue and just growl into it with as deep a voice as you got. It'll carry a lot further too when the birds are in the air and you're using that note in a hunting situation. The spit note and quick spit, two extremely effective goose killing notes. I like to use those notes when the geese are a long ways away to get their attention. They're real sharp, high pitched, quick, excited, aggressive note that really cuts through the air. If it's a real windy day, the geese are a long ways away, high pressured geese, I like to just hammer on that note when they're a long ways away, get their attention, get them coming in. So that spit note or quick spit, they're pretty close to the same note. The spit note is just a little bit longer, or spit moan they might call it. You'll hear that reference once in a while. And that quick spit would basically just be a shortened version of that, shorten it way up. So what it's gonna sound like, that was just a little combination of spit notes and quick spits. What you're gonna do to the call, you're gonna build up a ton of pressure behind your tongue, and I use the tip of my tongue when I'm doing that spit note. I build a ton of pressure behind the tip of my tongue, hold that pressure back, and then release a blast of air, super sharp blast of air, real high pressure right at the call, and it almost locks up the reed for a second, and basically you don't make any of that first note in the low note of the honk, or the moan. You blow right past that and you just get right into that high pitched note, and it sends out a super sharp note to begin with, and then the note kind of tapers off from there. And you almost actually spit into the call. That's why it's called the spit note. The spit note is a little bit longer. You drag out that second note a little bit. The quick spit is just a little shortened version of that, so you just kind of chop the back end of that off. And I like to mix both the quick spit and the spit note in with each other as kind of a little bit more goosey rhythm to it, and it breaks it up just a little bit.
Whether your decoys are weekend warriors or a tool of the trade, you depend on them to finish the flock when the time is right. Your spread should depend on the world's highest quality, most durable gunning decoys made. From old reliable extreme mallards to our innovative new X-Blind, we meet your demands. Dakota Decoy, the migration stops here.
So some tips for a successful goose hunt. You want to pay pretty close attention to this. First thing is hearing protection, wild ears, so that you don't have a headache tomorrow from guys like this blowing your eardrums out. You only get one set of ears, you don't want to wreck them. Number two, snacks. Definitely have to have snacks, especially if the kids are with. You're taking some kids out hunting. Oh, snacks are a key. Today we've got some Alaskan Kenai River smoked salmon, crucial part of it, and a Diet Coke. I would say the third most important thing is good friends and a good dog. That's about it. That's all you really need. Have a really successful goose hunt. We've talked about the honk, the cluck, the moan, cluck moan sequence, double cluck, spit note, the murmur. I mean, that's a great foundation to build off of from there. The more you practice, the more you're gonna expand that vocabulary. You're gonna put another whole bunch more tricks in your bag of goose sounds, if you will, and you're just gonna have so many more notes to pick from when the birds are coming in and you're working some birds. Basically, when I'm calling at a flock of birds, I'm gonna do the absolute minimum that I can do to get those birds' attention. Now here, I mean, you can see with the snow and cold temperatures that it's late season. We're into February right now, shooting some Canada geese. So these birds have been they've been around the block this year, we'll say that. They've seen and heard just about everything. So what the game plan is right now, what we're doing this time of year, this time of season, we've got a lot of decoys out, and we are trying to match that as goose callers and just fill everything with sound. And the birds are not always coming right over this field. They might be a quarter mile away or half a mile away, so we're doing whatever we can with flags and calls to try to get their attention. And then as the birds get closer, then we start being more realistic with our notes and with our sounds, and add a little bit more realism and a little more goosey tone to the calling versus just a wall of sound and crazy, obnoxious, fast garbage that we pretty much just use just to get their attention. So one thing that I like to do when I'm calling at a flock of geese is I'll try, some of the real basic notes, so like a cluck, moan sequence, and see what the flock of birds is doing. And if they're kind of just sliding by, not really paying attention to you, I'll probably pick that up a little bit and throw something sharper, faster at them, some spit notes and quick spits, and mix that in there and see if that high-pitched sound is going to trigger any one of those birds and pique their attention, maybe get them to turn. And it might be, the flock of birds might be, there might be 20 birds in it, something like that. And the last bird, or the third one to the last, as soon as you hit that spit note, his head just spun 90 degrees, and you caught his attention right there. Well, you're gonna wanna just kind of keep an eye on the entire flock and try and figure out what notes are gonna appeal to some of those geese, or maybe just one goose, and hopefully the intention is you can pull him back around and the rest of the flock will follow and finish the birds. So really, calling geese, I like to dumb it down, give them as little as possible, find out what's gonna work, and then if I find a note that works, today it's the quick spit, yesterday is the honk, okay? If I find a note that really works good, I'm just gonna stick with that note until it quits working, and then I'm gonna try a different note. So the more you practice, the more tricks you have in your bag of goose sounds, the more options you'll have when the birds just aren't doing it for you. There's a pile of different ways to teach these notes, and there's a ton of different calling styles out there, so there's no right way or wrong way to do it. Just find something that works for you, stick with it, run with it, go from there. You might not agree with the way I explain some of the notes in the video, and that's perfectly fine. If you find something else that works for you, have at it. The end result hopefully is all going to be the same, and that's a bunch of geese to eat for supper, right?
One of the biggest mistakes I see callers make is when they start to learn these notes and they have the foundation and they finally get out in the field, they want to show their whole repertoire right away. And they don't understand the importance of volume control. And when those birds are finishing, a lot of times they get blown out of the hole because a person has a array of calls you can use now, and then those birds don't finish. They're gone. You won't get another shot.
And like TJ was talking about with those guys, they might pick up a goose call early summer and run reads through that thing, practice that thing 3 hours a day, build up this whole big bag of tricks, and they never really used all those notes on a flock of geese, and it's early season and those geese are a half a mile away, and they just let loose, and he just takes his whole bag of tricks and just pours them all right out right there. And the geese are still 350 yards away, and he's out, and they don't really care. They've heard it all. They've seen it all. He's got nothing. If they come right by the edge of the decoys and just kind of slide by and they don't want to have anything to do, well, he's got no more tricks in that little bag. He just used them all when they were a quarter mile away. So save some of them. Keep them in your back pocket. Don't burn them all out when the birds can barely hear you.
Probably where I was touching his ear.
Here's how not to have a successful goose hunt. Bring your phone with. Gosh. We're good. Guys ready? Whenever you're ready. Get up! Come on! Woo!
Like they say,
That's
4 out of 5 make back. I'll take home a B every day of the week.
We got a pretty anxious dog over there, checking out the situation. Here. Good boy. Good boy. Here. Hey, hey, here. Good. Back.
What are you doing down here?
Grab your goose calls, start practicing. We've got some video and audio footage tacked on to the end of this thing of the wild Canada geese in the very wild city park, right in the middle of town, hanging out in the pond. There's some really good notes in there and just a lot of goose conversation. So take a look at that. It's pretty cool stuff. Thanks for watching. I'm Corey Loeffler, owner of the DRC Call Company. While my calls help bring the birds in close, my Labrador Boone brings them all the way back. You looking to own a pup from one of the most accomplished meat dogs in the country? Here's Boone, standing at stud, an AKC master hunter, an HRC hunting retriever champion pointing lab weighing in at 69 pounds. His dominant British traits boast a small, muscular frame, awesome looks, and that highly sought-after light switch personality. In the call shop, he's calm. As a family dog, he's gentle with the kids. In the goose field, he's on edge and focused, always giving 100% every retrieve. He was introduced to the goose field in early 2015, and since then he's spent over 120 days in the field every year, chasing ducks, geese, pheasants, cranes, doves, and grouse. In the summer, he crushes hunt tests. In 2016, 3 years old, he earned his Master Hunter title. In 2017, he went 8 for 8 in HRC finish tests without ever being handled to a mark. That's 16 sets of triples, 48 retrieves without a whistle. His intense focus, his outstanding eyesight and memory are an invaluable asset when on the line at a hunt test or in the goose field. He's cleaned up countless cripples out to 600 yards. He passes these impressive genes onto his offspring. He's black, yellow factored, and clear of all common genetic disorders. EIC, CNM, D locus, dilute, PRA, PRCD, cleared for early cataracts. His OFA hips are good and his elbows are normal. You can see more of Boone on Nick's Wild Ride on the Outdoor Channel, cover of Wildfowl magazine, DRC Calls website, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube channel, Prairie Sportsman on Pioneer Public Television. You can own a Boone pup or possibly have a litter of Boone pups, natural breeding and fresh chilled semen available to qualified females. For stud information, visit his page on drccalls.com.
That was a good little fight. They'll be back.
Hey, you guys been seeing any geese up there?
No, we haven't. There's no geese coming up here.
Oh you get some geese coming out of town, and so I got 2 sticks of dynamite here. I'll just light the fuse. I'm ready to go.
My goose call does it. Finally unfroze.
Did it? Unfroze? You should unthaw it. Sounds better that way.
Unthaw it?
Your cheeks. Cannot puff your cheeks out. Keep those cheeks tight. Don't puff your cheeks out. And hold your cheeks in. Cheeks aren't getting puffed out. Hey, don't puff your cheeks out. Hey, your cheeks are puffing out.
And one thing I've noticed when I've been doing these things is that I can never figure out what to do with my hands. I mean, should I keep them down here?
We talked about this. This is the finger groove.
Oh.
Right here. Yep, so that's
So
there.
then
And then
I
this,
can-
are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm left-handed.
Okay, then this is your offhand. So that is going
Yeah.
to echo the sound right there. There it is. That's what you do with your hands. We
And
talked about
when
this
I'm
a while
talking
ago.
to the camera, I just don't know what to do with my hands. But now I know. But do you think they should be blocking my face?
Absolutely. That's right where I'd put them.
Okay,
That set of gloves looks a lot
You're
better.
an amazing teacher and a great friend. Thank you.
You're welcome. Call
You're
me Sensei.
truly- Say thank you, Sensei. Truly one of the great gifts the world has ever received.
Not the first time I've heard that.
Thank you. I enjoy it.
That'll make the cut.
Hey, I got a tip.